Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dr. Thomas Bullock, and I am a senior consultant with Genesis Ed Solutions, and I'm here to welcome you to our Momentum Symposium. We are thrilled to have you with us today because your participation is what makes this event special. And we can't wait to share this exciting lineup of discussions and insights. But before we dive into today's agenda, we have a few announcements to share with you. So here it goes. Immediately following the symposium, all local participants, those here in Jacksonville, are invited to join us for a delightful ice cream social at Malachi's Ice Cream Bar. The venue is located at 1661 Riverside Avenue here in Jacksonville, Florida. This will be a great opportunity to unwind, connect, and enjoy delicious ice cream and ice cream treats. So if you would like to scan the QR code that appears on the screen, you will receive a free voucher to redeem at Malachi's, or you can pick up your voucher upon arrival. So just another option because we don't want anyone to miss out. Okay, let's look at another announcement. We really want this to be an interactive discussion. So I would like to draw your attention to the QA control, question and answer control, on the bottom of your screen. Here you can enter your questions and general comments as they come to mind. And we highly encourage you to do so, again, to make this as interactive as you so choose. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on all things momentum. You can visit our website at genesisedsolutions.com to learn more about our upcoming events. One of our events that we're so happy about and we'll share with you later is called our new platform, Build, Restore University. Genesis will offer a variety of courses through this platform, and we'd love for you to be part of that journey. Thank you again for joining us. Now let's settle in and get ready for a great discussion. Genesis Consulting Group, also doing work as Genesis Ed Solution or just Genesis, partners with clients operating in the community transformation sphere to navigate large-scale change and solve complex problems. Genesis provides capacity building services for public agencies as well as nonprofit organizations and higher ed institutions. The firm's specialties include organizational development and design, strategic planning, research and evaluation, professional learning, accreditation, resource development, community engagement, DEIB development, strategy, and executive and board leadership development. Genesis, as you might know, is a Black-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned business enterprise. Genesis was founded in 1999 and incorporated in 2007. The firm's principal office is in Jacksonville, Florida, and our core team of consultants boasts more than 60 years of combined experience in executive level leadership, with additional consultants and other skilled contractors assigned to project teams as needed. Genesis clientele is international, and it includes public agencies, higher education, K-12 institutions, nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, and corporations. Wherever we work, we facilitate transformative social change by partnering with leaders to add momentum to their missions through data-driven solutions that empower teams and maximize impact. This work could not be possible without the dedicated team of highly skilled professionals. And I'd like to introduce you to them now. Again, my name is Dr. Tom Bullock. I serve as a senior consultant. We have Valerie Hervey, who is a consultant. Ashley Falcon works behind the scenes as our operations administrator, and Crystal Rosado is our executive assistant. I'm going to introduce Dr. Joy Gorham Hervey, who is the founder and principal consultant of Genesis Ed Solutions, and you will hear from her just following a short video of one of our clients who has provided a video testimony that gives you a little bit more of what we do and how we do it. So again, thank you, welcome, and we look forward to a discussion with some dynamic leaders in various industries.
Hello, my name is Billy Terry. I serve as the Executive Director for the National Transit Institute. The National Transit Institute has the awesome responsibility of training a little over 8,000 transit and transportational professionals each year all across the country. For the past 4 years, Genesis has served as a valuable partner, providing consulting service related to course content evaluation and enhancement, and evaluation of our instructors. During that time, we've seen our course registrations increase by slightly over 40%, and we've seen significant increases in the evaluation scores of our instructors. The Genesis team they are all consummate professionals, well-credentialed, down-to-earth people, but consummate professionals. Arguably the most insightful consulting group I've ever engaged in my 30-year career in the public sector and the private sector. Last night, I was looking through some old files as I was reflecting on how long I've been engaging with the Genesis team, and I came across an email from Joy inviting me to participate in 2010 in the Building and Restoring Communities Conference, and I remember it vividly. The impact that the Genesis team has had in communities all across the country is immeasurable, even though we know they love data, right? But the impact has been immeasurable they've had on public and private sector, educational institutions, nonprofits. And I'm proud to call them colleagues and proud to call them friends. The National Transit Institute has every intention of continuing to utilize their services to enhance the work that we do across the country. Congratulations on 25 years and congratulations on many, many more.
Well, welcome everyone. I can't see you, but I know that you're there and so excited that you decided to join us as we celebrate 25 years in business. What a milestone. My name is Dr. Joy Gorham Hervey, and as was mentioned earlier, I'm co-founder of Genesis Ed Solutions and also serve as our principal consultant. And I don't want to take too much time because I'm so excited to speak with the leaders that have joined us today. But I do just want to share a little bit of our story. So I remember many years ago when I was maybe about 8 or 9 years old, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and we went on a tour of the NAACP office in Baltimore. And I come from a very justice-oriented family. But I remember going to the CEO's office and just seeing it spread out with the huge desk in the middle. And I said, I want to be a CEO. I want to be an executive. And so many, many years later, I find myself at the helm of leadership of this firm. And it's a reminder that there's no dream that's too big or too small for our God. Now, we can attribute our success to two things primarily. One is a great team. And so Tom introduced all of our team members earlier. And I just have to say that our team is small but mighty. We're doing wonderful things, and none of what we do at Genesis would be possible without these professionals that you see on your screen. And so I just want to thank them for all of the work that they put in, the many hours that we spend to serve communities. Wouldn't be possible without you. The second thing that our success is attributable to is a good God, right? So we are based in Christian principles, and we don't only serve faith-oriented institutions, but I do want to share that there's a scripture that has been at the foundation of our firm from the beginning. My co-founder and I, my ex-husband, Dr. Gorham Hervey Jr., we both had the scripture as one of our life scriptures when we came together to begin this firm. And I'm going to read it. It's Isaiah 58:12 from the Message version. And it says, "You'll use the old rubble of past lives to begin anew. Rebuild the foundations from out of your past. You'll be known as those who can fix anything, restore old ruins, rebuild and renovate, make the community livable again." Wow. So that resonates with the work that we've done over the years. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means to us, and particularly that focus on equity. But first, I want to introduce our awesome panel of accomplished leaders. The first panelist is Dr. Diana Greene. Dr. Diana Greene has dedicated over 37 years to public education, most recently serving as superintendent of Duval County Public Schools, the nation's 20th largest district. During her 5-year tenure, she achieved record graduation rates, removed all schools from the state's turnaround list, and led successful voter referendums that generated over $2 billion for school improvements and teacher compensation. And I must say, as a resident of Jacksonville, we're seeing the fruit of her labor now in the many school campuses that are under construction and renovation. A proponent of social justice, she oversaw the renaming of schools honoring Confederate leaders. Now the CEO of Children's Literacy Initiative, Dr. Greene aims to enhance literacy and equity in education, emphasizing professional learning and culturally responsive instruction. Welcome, Dr. Greene, and I'm glad to call her a friend. Next, I'd like to introduce Aisha Eccleston Mundy. She's president of Eccleston International Incorporated, a leader in international logistics and project management with over 20 years of experience. She significantly contributed to JAXPORT's growth during her 15 years there, organizing the first JAXPORT Logistics Conference and facilitating major trade missions to South Africa, Ghana, and Cuba. Aisha holds degrees from Clark Atlanta University and Edward Waters University, along with certifications in transportation and logistics. Active leader in organizations like Compto and WISTA, she's received accolades including JAXPORT's Golden Sail Award and recognition among Jacksonville Business Journal's Top 40 Under 40, embodying the Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are. I love that. And welcome, Aisha. So glad to have you here. I'm glad to call you friend. I want to introduce Valerie Rochester. She's the Chief Health Equity and Impact Officer at CHC, Creating Healthier Communities. Valerie is a health strategist and advocate with over 25 years of experience in public health, social services, and health philanthropy. At CHC, she leads initiatives focused on health equity, social impact, and community engagement. Previously, she served as Chief Program Officer at AIDS United, directing resources to communities affected by HIV, and as Director of Programs and Training at the Black Women's Health Imperative, addressing health inequities. A recipient of the Congressional Black Caucus Healthcare Hero Award, Valerie actively engages with various organizations to improve health outcomes in communities of color. Welcome, Valerie. We're so glad to have you here. A client, become a friend. and Suzanne Pickett. She's the co-founder and executive director of the Historic Eastside Community Development Corporation and the director of Housing, Wealth Building, and Community Development for the Jacksonville Urban League. Certified in housing counseling by HUD and in community real estate development from the University of South Florida, she brings over 20 years of experience in arts and community development. Suzanne is dedicated to creating opportunities for creatives and revitalizing underserved communities through arts and culture, while advocating for fairness and equality and enterprise opportunities that are essential for sustainable community development and enhanced quality of life. Welcome, Suzanne. And we've worked together on many projects. And if you live here in Jacksonville, you know that she has worked really hard and has had a big win recently in that community benefits agreement for the East Side neighborhood connected with the stadium project. So congratulations. And finally, I'd like to introduce my friend, Reverend Dr. Stacey Cole Wilson. She's an ordained elder and visionary leader in the Baltimore-Washington Conference of the United Methodist Church, and she currently serves as the executive minister of Beloved Community. She provides connectional leadership in the areas of cross-racial, cross-cultural ministry, advocacy and action, cultural responsiveness, equity, and advancing social justice. She's professionally trained as a scientist, theologian, intercultural development inventory qualified administrator, a PCC credentialed coach, and an analyst certified in advancing equity by the Harvard Kennedy School of Executive Leadership. Stacey is a leading advocate for inclusion, diversity, equity, and anti-racism in and beyond our connection. And she's honored to be a part of this conversation, and I'm even more honored to have her as part of it. So welcome, all of my panelists. So honored that you would be with us today. And we're just going to jump right into our conversation. So I want to ask you first, what's one thing you're working on? So we've read your bio, so we know you're working on a lot of things, but what's one thing that you're working on right now that you'd like to share? And what's inspiring you these days? We'll start with you, Aisha.
All right, had to make sure I unmute. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here today. So yeah, so one of the things I'm working on currently that's pretty inspirational. I'm currently the co-chair of the Transportation Committee for the City of Jacksonville's Clean Air Northeast Florida initiative. So it's very inspiring to see the commitment in the community to foster sustainable initiatives and then reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I know people might have their opinions about global warming, but we can all see how all of our lives are affected by these extreme weather conditions in our daily lives. So to see people actually care about the community, to care about the climate is pretty inspirational. So I'm on the transportation committee and working with a lot of really amazing people here to help make this community better.
Awesome. Thank you for your work in that space. Valerie, what are you working on? What are you excited about? What's inspiring you?
So many things in all those categories. But one of the main things is we're finishing up the final year of a 3-year initiative that focuses on reducing preterm birth rates among Black women. I think everybody knows about the challenges and issues that this country sees around the birth outcomes for Black women. The Black maternal mortality rate is extremely high. We have high rates of preterm birth and Black infant mortality. And we're working in 3 communities in Atlanta, Cleveland, Detroit, actually 4, and Indianapolis, with a research program as well as a community level intervention where we have provided a range of wraparound services for Black pregnant people to engage them with a doula, to engage them with a series of program services and activities that help address social drivers of health, such as food insecurity, housing insecurity, livable wages, all of those things. And we've been able to develop some really solid partnerships in these 4 communities and have really begun to see some changes as far as improvements in the preterm birth rates. We've seen about a 63% drop in the rates of preterm births
Amazing.
among the 396 women that we have served so far. So we're really excited as we reach the conclusion of this and be able to share some of the findings.
Wow, that's super inspiring. Thank you, Valerie, and thank you for that work on behalf of all of us, Black women, regardless of income, have these outcomes that are disparate. So thank you for that work. Suzanne, how about you?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you,
Welcome.
Joy. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be on a part of such an illustrious panel and such a great organization. As you briefly mentioned, we've had a really great win. I'm the president and CEO of Historic Eastside CDC. We work in the Eastside neighborhood here in Jacksonville. We have worked to secure a community benefits agreement as our sports entertainment district is in the Eastside neighborhood. We were successfully in securing $115 million investment into the neighborhood as the neighborhood grows, which was just improved by the NFL. So we're really, I'm more excited about that. Joy, you know how long we've been working in the community now for about 15 years to get to this point. It's it's been a long time coming, but this is a new start for us.
Yes.
We're getting a new stadium. We're actually also getting a new soccer stadium that's not talked about as much as the sports entertainment district or the NFL stadium. We're getting a Four Seasons hotel in our neighborhood. We're getting the mosque. So it's really exciting to finally see investment at Eastside. It's still a little challenging as we work to help the current community prosper in place. Eastside is the last remaining neighborhood around downtown that has not been gentrified, African-American neighborhood, and it's still the most intact African-American neighborhood in the state of Florida. So there's still a lot of work to be done in preventing displacement and gentrification. But we have great partners. I know we're going to talk some about partnerships today, but we're just really excited about our work in helping our residents and neighbors in the East Side.
Amazing. Yes, I'm so excited for you and for your neighbors. That is wonderful accomplishment. Yes. So Stacey, let's talk. What are you working on these days and what's inspiring you?
Well, hello, hello, hello. Listening to this conversation is also very inspiring for us. I work in the Baltimore, Washington Conference of the United Methodist Church, and in this area, we have about maybe a little under 600 congregations, and then we partner with the Peninsula Delaware area, so that's about another 400. And then we're part of a jurisdiction and then a larger connection. And so what we've done is we've partnered with the General Board of Church and Society to create what we call a sacred voter toolkit. And so we've been and I guess it's a guide to election participation, justice, and social transformation. And what we wanted to ensure is that faith leaders have that they have tools that they could provide to congregants and community workers to help persons learn where to vote, if they are registered to vote, how to vote their values, how to help individuals with absentee voting, and all the ways that we can amplify our voices for change. And so that's one of the things we're working on, and truly grateful for those within the community and beyond who are really helping and chipping in to help other people to exercise their right.
Yes, so awesome. That is really the frontier that we're on. We're standing there right now. Voting is near and dear to my heart, an area of engagement that is so important. Thank you for your work. And Diana, how about you? What's going on in your world?
Well, quite a bit, Joy, but I really want to focus on what's going on in my world that connects to this community. One subject area that isn't talked about a lot is the national literacy crisis we are in. And there is a documentary out called Sentence, and we are working to bring that documentary to Jacksonville. I am partnering with two other organizations, Read USA and, I hope I don't get this wrong, Literacy Alliance of Northeast Florida. The documentary is talking about the issue of adult illiteracy, but that how it connects to illiteracy at the K through 12 level and even at the early childhood level. It truly is a powerful documentary. However, what we do know is that still Black and Brown students are overwhelmingly still struggling with literacy. The data bears out that there was a gap pre-COVID, and now that gap is getting even wider. And especially for Latinx students, we're seeing that gap grow. And so I'm inspired to know that there are people who are wanting to help. And so anyone listening to this webinar, I encourage you, if you are interested in seeing the documentary or participating in our showing, please email me at dgreene@cli.org. The showing is going to be in December, and that date hasn't been solidified, but we really want this community to invest in nonprofits that are supporting literacy education. For CLI, Children's Literacy Initiative, we are excited that we have our first project in early literacy from birth to age 5 here in Duval, and we want to provide support for Read USA, who is in our schools, Duval County Public Schools, and then Literacy Alliance of Northeast Florida, who are working with the adults who are struggling with literacy. And though we know that Black and Brown students are mostly impacted, illiteracy doesn't know color. And this documentary will truly bear that out and show the crisis that we have in this country.
Wow. Such important work. And thank you. I would love to learn more about that. And we would love to amplify that event on our social media. So let's make sure that we connect on that after we're done. Okay. So what I was impressed by, just as you all shared, is that we're all working on equity in some way in our respective spaces. And the diversity of the work that you shared really highlights the many places where equity is at play. We talked about education, we talked about health outcomes, we talked about political participation, about economic opportunity, right? About environmental justice and sustainability. So in all of these arenas, equity is huge, and that's what we're all working toward. But if we needed to define it, how we do that, sometimes I hear people talk about equity in a way that is very nebulous and not as something measurable. So how do you define equity in your work, and how can we measure it? So I'll start with you, Stacey. What do you think about that?
Well, you'd start with me. Thank you, Dr. Hervey. We have lots of images, so I'm going to just start with some of the basic definitions and then how we actually reinterpret it. So we start with the American Psychological Association definition that's offered, like an ongoing process of assessing needs, correcting historical inequities, and creating conditions for optimal outcomes by members of all social identity groups. We move from there when we have our trainings to kind of change it up to by equity, we mean the condition where one's identity has no influence on how one fares in society. And so by that, we offer an equity or an equity approach. And so what that is, we eliminate barriers that prevent or have prevented the thriving and flourishing of particular groups. We explicitly name the isms and factors that are drivers of the inequity. We provide a historical context or analysis for how particular groups have fared in the past. We are intentional about advancing policy solutions that seek to address or repair the present day manifestations of past harms. We are intentional about advancing policy solutions that are both targeted and universal. And we've worked with Dushel Hackett from the Spaces Group to help us kind of, hone these. And then lastly, the image that comes to mind for me is when there's like a relay and persons are starting in different spaces. And
Mm.
so in a relay, we are very clear about the journey, but we do not all start in the same place. And for those who may observe this, it may not look like it's fair, but it is. And it's ensuring that it is a fair process. So that's what I'll share about that. And
Yeah.
it's something that's very, very near and dear to my heart as well, especially in the church, or in the faith-based space, because oftentimes folks don't believe that, for some, I don't know, but maybe the church shouldn't be talking about equity. And as what some would say, and what kind of church would we be if we didn't?
It's a powerful question. Thank you for that. So we're building a story here, building a definition. Aisha, what would you contribute to that definition of equity and measuring equity? How do we do that?
This is such an exciting conversation. I'm so happy to be here. So for me, I'm a self-professed transportation nerd. So when I hear most things are related to transportation. So with regards to equity, I think of access to transportation, all modes, right? So meaning that everyone, regardless of their age, regardless of your economic status, regardless of if you have a disability, you should have access to safe and reliable transportation. Transportation, the ability to get people to school, to work, to travel is a civil right. So all of these initiatives that we're talking about, it really can't happen without people being able to get to and from, right? And we talk about logistics, our products getting to and from stores, to and from distribution centers. So transportation really, it touches every aspect of our lives, and equity being the biggest thing, right? So being able to get healthy grocery store food from the grocery stores, getting quality products, to me, that's all equity. With regards to strategies, I work with organizations like the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, or COMTO for short. And the mission is to level the playing field for minorities in transportation in all aspects of transportation equity. I think in transportation, the measurement for equity is usage, right? So people use things that work. People use streets that are easy to access. And then also safety measures. So there's less accidents when you have properly functioning roads. There's less pedestrian accident injuries when you have proper sidewalks in neighborhoods. So for me, equity certainly in transportation, I'm adamant to make sure that people have ways to get to and from where they need to go to, regardless of what their situations are.
So powerful. And I love the measurable outcomes that you're looking at. These indicators are definitely measurable. Valerie, how about you in the public health space? How are you defining equity and how are you measuring that?
I think the way that I approach it is a little bit different than what we may have already heard. I first of all had to start off with what equity or health equity is not. When I first came to CHC, it was an inaugural position that I took, and it was a new focus for the organization because for the past 65 years, CHC has been a workplace giving vendor and have transitioned to this expanded business model now of health equity and workplace giving, or health equity within workplace giving spaces. And so we really had to figure out what it means for the organization and move from that theoretical, non-tangible kind of focus to really making it real for communities. And so what it's not in the way we're approaching this, it's not fair and it's not equal. And that just means that it's not about giving people the same things or making sure people have the same things. It's making sure that people in communities have what they need in order to be well and to be healthy and to reach their full potential. And so access is, of course, a key part of that. Access to services, access to transportation, safe and affordable housing, food, so many, education, so many things. And so it's looking at what each community needs or what each person in that community needs, regardless of who they are, where they live, color of their skin, all of those things. So that's where we start. And looking at how we go about our work and how we measure the impact of our work, we really look at the community relationships that we build. It's all about making sure that people in communities are heard, not just heard, but they're involved. And so we don't do anything without building in that community engagement focus and making sure that the people that are in communities that have the lived experiences and the lived lessons are involved in developing programs, developing strategies, receiving funding, all of the things that are needed, because people that are closest to the issues have the answers to what's needed. And so we work with people in communities to help uplift those strategies, what they know works, and again, make sure that there is this intentional and mindful opportunity to engage community members in every aspect of our work. So that's how we practice.
Yeah, I love that focus on process and the intentionality of that. Diana, can you share how you're approaching equity these days and measuring it?
You know, we're approaching it very similar to Valerie in that we want teachers to see all students in their classrooms, and we want them to see them as value. We don't want them to see them through deficits. We want them to see them through assets and meet them where they are and do what's necessary to get them to literacy proficiency. And so many times people view equity as, well, if we give them all the same thing, then that's being equitable. And we are saying, no, that is not being equitable. What each child needs may be very different, but at the basic level, you first have to start with belief. Do you actually believe these children can learn? And if you don't have that belief, then we're already starting behind the curve, or if you will, we're already starting in a deficit. So it starts with believing and having high expectations for Black and Brown students, ensuring that you are providing what is necessary to help them achieve literacy proficiency. And we just added this piece of bringing families along the journey by listening to their voices, having a better understanding of that family dynamic, what those children, the environments for where they come, which are unique, but not allowing those environments to prevent you from doing what needs to be done to ensure that that child can be literacy proficient. And we actually have criteria and metrics for identifying, are you on that continuum of providing high quality instruction? And the wonderful thing about it is that our focus is for Black and Brown students, but it can be utilized for all students. Because we have students with disabilities. We have students that are biracial. The work is delivered in the way that best suits those students, but the end result should be the same literacy proficiency.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And just that piece about expectations is so important and something that is important to lift up. Suzanne, anything to share regarding equity and how that's entering into your work and how you all are measuring that?
So again, I do echo those sentiments of Dr. Greene and then Valerie. But Joy, I don't know if you remember when we would do that work in the community development space, and we would always get this question about the community, what does the community want? And that question would really bother me, but my response would be, our community wants the same thing that your community wants, you know, fair and equitable. And I remember when I started doing this work, and there was an older lady, a senior in her 60s, she was walking down the street, and I asked her where she was going. This was just a few years ago. And she said, I'm going to the store to pay my electric bill. Because we did not have access to, so there's no digital access. So almost every disparity that that exists is in the East Side and some of our urban neighborhoods. So for me, equity, it became access. It became providing access to opportunities, resources, and benefits, which is still the same for me. It's making sure that our community has access, in whatever space they need, in everything, in education, healthcare, fair housing, arts and culture. I'm a visual artist, arts and culture. I mean, just everything. And then we're measuring those impacts by just, the amount of people that we're able to keep in their homes, the amount of new homeowners that we're able to get, or increase affordable housing. Now, digitally, the amount of homes that actually have, internet in their house, and then even them learning how to use the internet and use the computer in their own house, so they don't have to walk a quarter of a mile or more to pay their electric bill. So talk about equity, that's what we're dealing with. And that's how we describe it in our community, in our work.
Wow, so powerful, and just how practical it is. So I think sometimes even I can lose sight of how practical equity is for the folks that we serve, for our neighbors, that these are everyday situations, right? That equity impacts. It's not just a big picture or pie in the sky concept. So, so I think together we built a really insightful definition of equity that includes expectations, access, opportunities, engagement, right? Even safety. And so I love that together we're able to do that in an interdisciplinary way. So let's talk about the future, right? So our firm was founded in 1999. And I don't think we could have anticipated where we are today when it comes to the rise of AI, when it comes to post-COVID realities that we're all living in, when we talk about post 9/11, right? Security and travel realities. So I don't know if we can tell the future 25 years from now, but I want us to try, right? So based on the work that you're doing, the work that you're seeing, what emerging trends are you seeing that you think will have the most significant impact in your field over the next 25 years? Think about that a little bit. So we'll start, let's start with you, Diana. I'm sorry. No, let's start with Valerie. Let's start with Valerie this time.
Okay. I think what trend will have the most impact for the work that my team is doing is around AI, and not always in a good way, as far as good significance or good impact. I think that there is a wealth of benefit to using AI in so many ways. It's being used in reviewing medical charts, for example, and looking at where there are trends as far as certain health conditions that we're seeing, and where there might be opportunities to use that for data collection. But I think we also need to take a look at what the downside could be. I mean, we have to realize that AI is informed by people contributing to it. And we need to look at who's contributing to it, because when you look at some of the practical applications for it, there have been challenges as far as race and ethnicity is concerned, or various cultural differences. Context is something that is evolving, but we're still at a point where there could be some potential harm done as far as some of the information that's generated through AI, or some of the messaging that's generated through AI. So just, keeping an eye on it, first of all, not sleeping on it, definitely, but making sure that we're ahead of the curve or ahead of the trends as far as how AI is being utilized in our work and in the communities where we do our work, and communities that we help to represent, and making sure that it's not being viewed in a harmful way. So there's some due diligence, I think, that we all need to be aware of and practice when it comes to that particular trend.
Such an important reminder when it comes to AI. There's a friend of mine, Meredith Broussard. We're classmates, but she brilliant technologist and wrote a book regarding exactly what you're talking about. And so I invite everyone to look for that, about kind of the dangers of AI not properly vetted and utilized. So thank you for that. Aisha, I think you're kind of on the cutting edge of some things there. So what do you see? What trends do you see that will impact our futures?
So as far as transportation is related, I think we've all heard about a lot of the electrification talks, right? So talking about personal vehicles being electrified, talking about commercial and fleet vehicles, just these different ways to electrify to reduce our impact on the environment, as well as automation, right? So then I think that the biggest thing we learned through COVID is that we looked at these essential workers, right? So that we realize that there's people whose jobs cannot be done on a computer, cannot be done from home. While a lot of people were able to work from home, you had people, and it just became very clear. And these workers were typically not the highest paid workers in our society, right? And so for me, I also realized that there's no such thing as poor people, there's poorly paid people. And so when I talk about trends over the next 25 years and how we make sure they go in the right direction, is training, right? So training. We just saw the ILA strike that just happened. So automation, oh, you're getting rid of jobs, right? So now you see the automatic things in the grocery stores, oh, you're getting rid of jobs. To me, the biggest opportunity over 25 years is training and education, right? So automation, these is going to happen, right? So these different innovations are going to happen. And I think training is the great equalizer, right? Education. So in those technology spaces, in the right way to use these technologies, as Valerie stated, so that we make sure that we can drive that narrative and those decisions are not made for us, that we take advantage of getting trained and making sure that training is even in our communities, right? So
Yeah,
that's what I think.
love that. Thank you. So I wrote that quote down. It's tweetable. I'm going to use it. I'm giving
I'm
you
a
your
child of
credit
the
now.
poorly paid, like a lot of
Yeah.
us are. We are children, right? So it's nothing wrong with that, but we realize that we never felt that way, right? Like, so it's interesting things.
Yeah, that's good. There's no such thing as poor people. They're poorly paid people.
That's right.
It's so important. So I'm giving you a credit now. So when you see it, you have been accredited properly today.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I love that. And I want to just take the opportunity, since you mentioned training, to mention again something that was brought out by Tom in the announcement. So we are in the development stage of what we're calling Build Restore University, which is all about professional learning for leaders. And so we'll be rolling out some online and hybrid courses over the course of the next 6 months or so. So if you're not on our mailing list, I invite you to go to our website, genesisedsolutions.com, and make sure that you're on our mailing list to be notified when we're doing that, because truly talent is one of the next frontiers when it comes to civil rights. How do we develop the talent that exists in our communities in a way that is equitable and accessible? So we're looking to do that certainly in the leadership and nonprofit space. So let's move and talk about leadership. Let's talk about leadership development. So this panel is full of leaders. We all have our own journeys, our own stories. If you all were to tell your story, we would be here for another 4 hours, right? At least. And so we don't have time for that, but I do want our participants to just walk away with something that they can use in their leadership journey. So my question for you is this. When it comes to your leadership journey, what is the best personal development decision that you've ever made, right? So I'm a firm believer that we can only do what we become. You know, we can be very task-oriented, goal-oriented, solution-oriented, but really my lid as a leader is who I am, right? And so I wonder for each of you, what's the best personal development decision that you've ever made that's impacted your life and your leadership? So I'm going to start with you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Joy. I was having a conversation just a few days ago with a friend of mine who's also a leader. And again, in our neighborhood, we are challenged with helping make adjustments to mindsets, right? Not telling people that they're right or wrong, just helping them identify, where their belief system occurs, if that belief system is still working for you. And if it's not working for you, how do you make adjustments to change that? And what you said was, you can't be the person you want to be. You can't be the person that you were and the person that you want to be at the same time. And that's really resonated with me as we straddle the fence, right? As we really want to do this great work in our communities, but we also have, challenges in the way we work and the way we lead. And that for me is really profound. In our work, we have to right, not judge, right? Not judge people for their own decisions and their own belief systems, but help them identify, the areas in which they want to go and grow, and then use our talents and professional experience to help them with that. So for me in leadership, that's been really the best thing for me is, teaching people to identify beliefs that you had about your life that you grew up with, and then see if those beliefs are still in line with your current goals and where you want to go in life.
Wow, that's some wisdom. So, that's why we titled this panel, not just innovation and inspiration, but wisdom. Thank you. Valerie, how about you?
I can't say there's any one decision that I've made that has helped me along my journey, but maybe more the process I use in making decisions. And I think the one guiding factor that I always use is trusting my why. Why am I in this work? Why do I want to look at maybe advancing or moving into another field? What is it that's driving me? And, for me, it all goes back to, growing up, and my father used to take us on his idea of a Sunday drive was taking us back to the areas where we grew up, which were considered the projects in Indianapolis. And he always told us to never forget where we came from. And that's always been part of my why, and always been what has led my decision-making as far as any of the positions I've taken. And so I've always looked for, what continues to deepen that why, but also where there are risks, because I don't believe in operating in comfort. I feel I'm more challenged when I take a risk, apply for a position that I may not have I may not be the person that has the most experience, but I certainly have that commitment. And so, looking at the strengths that I bring to that process, and again, just that commitment and keeping that why, WHY centered as far as, what is moving me along toward my goals. And now that I'm pretty much at the end of my professional career, I can say that that has been the constant factor that has led to my decision-making process.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Stacey, how about you?
Yeah, thank you. This has been really thoughtful conversation. Thank you all for sharing. I think mine is some would say honor the image of God in other people. Some would say see all the people. Honor your voice while you're seeing all the people. Learn every name that you can possibly learn. Address people with utmost respect by their name, not a shortened version of their name, but the names they'd like to be called. And not see a person as less than or superior, but as your equal, right? And of course that's with within culture, but to be respectful in all the ways. So to really not ask yourself, like, do I belong in this space? Am I enough? But to know, I'm created in the image of God, and who am I not to be in this space? And who am I not to offer the gifts that God has entrusted into my life? And who am I not to honor the gifts in the other person? And who am I to believe that I have all the gifts and that I can't celebrate all the gifts in the space? And so it's really, I guess, humbled me in ways. It's helped me engage in conversations with people, perhaps that some others may not have. It's helped me to reach for help when perhaps I could have stayed silent and pretended that I knew something that I did not know. It's helped me to build things that I didn't think, even like in the beginning, I knew I could build. So it's I would say the best leadership development starts with, and I think somebody else said this as well, like how we view the perspective we have, the mindset that we have, and how proximate relational we are with other people, with the understanding that understanding of Ubuntu, that understanding of beloved community, that understanding that we are interconnected.
Powerful. Yes, yes, yes. Beloved community. Diana, what about you? Personal development decision, the best one that you've ever made.
Well, I think I'm very similar to Valerie. I don't know that it was one decision. I think it was a process, or I think even more so my life experiences. I grew up as a military brat, so I've lived abroad and all over the United States, and we had such an appreciation for diversity. I mean, we lived in Germany for 3.5 years. And by the time we came back to the United States, I could speak German. I had an accent, and then my father retired and moved to Ocala, and I went to a school that was 99% African American, and I had never seen that many African Americans in one location because of how we lived. And all those experiences, I think, led to me being a leader that always sought to understand before trying to be understood. Because I didn't know the Southern African American diaspora, if you will, because like I said, we were military. And I had to figure out very quickly, how do you meet these individuals where they are and not be the perception that I know more. I mean, if I heard you talk like a white person, if I had a dime for every time I heard that, I'd be a rich woman, because I didn't know that I was speaking white, because I didn't know. So as I grew up or got older, became an educator, I really tried to first put myself to the side to understand this person, and then allow them to try to understand me. And it has served me well as a leader. It also can be a detriment, because many times for me trying to understand first, I may put myself in the background, who I really am. I remember very quickly visiting a family, and they were in an area that, most people would say you shouldn't be there at night, but I needed to meet with this family. And I remember trying to practice in the mirror, making sure my voice didn't sound like it normally sounds. I wanted them to feel comfortable with me. And so I changed me to help them talk to me, and to help me get them to understand they need to make sure they send their child to school. I need you to send them to school. And I knew if I came off, I didn't dress my normal dress. I came in more comfortable clothes so that they could be comfortable with me. And as a leader, I think it kind of takes what Stacey said, be respectful for individuals, meet them where they are, honor them. And, this parent never had Miss so-and-so behind her name. Who's that? Oh, that's you. And showing that respect. But I think it was just my life experiences really opened my eyes to the different perspectives around not only just your community, but nationally and globally. And I've always tried to seek to understand before trying to be understood.
Yes, that's such wisdom. Thank you for sharing that. And Aisha, I don't think we've heard from you yet about personal development and your approach to that.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. Also, Diane, I think that's a superpower, by the way, and what you did, and you're able to look at a situation, and it's definitely a good thing. And I'm a student of Dr. Stephen Covey as well, seek to understand before being understood. But I would say, so quickly for me, I think the best personal development decision was just taking my mental health seriously, right? So we all have different upbringings, different backgrounds, different stressors, different jobs, different family responsibilities, and we still have to do our work. We have to run business, right? So, and sometimes you feel up to it and sometimes you just don't. You may not know why. So going to therapy. So I think that one of the best decisions I've ever made is going and staying and going whenever I need it, right? And just really taking your mental health seriously, and hopefully that you have a therapy that's going to show you those areas of improvement in yourself. So we can always say what someone else did, how they hurt us, how we got offended. But then when you can look at truly your true self, the things that you wish you didn't, do you know what I mean? And you can become and learn to be okay with that, because at first you're not going to be, right? So that when you can become comfortable with who you are, the good parts and the parts that can be improved some, I think that then unlocks the barriers that you would have to develop other aspects of leadership, healthy aspects, right? Because we know that we've seen all leaderships of all kinds, and it's not necessarily healthy or positive leadership. So I think that paying attention and constantly doing it and being every day and my wellness and my mental wellness, being aware of that. And if I don't feel well mentally, I really can't do much else. So I think that's the biggest thing, just committing to that for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's awesome. And and as I was listening to you all, I was thinking about what my answer would be, and it's very similar to yours, Aisha, in terms of focusing on self-care and just having a intentional approach to that. I think is helping me with longevity as a leader. So thank you for lifting that up, and certainly is something that we all would do well to attend to. So I would like to invite you. We're gonna talk about a couple more things, but if you're listening and you have questions, I want to invite you to begin to drop those questions in the chat, because we'll be doing some Q&A a little later. And so I don't want you to forget your questions. If there are things that we've talked about that you have questions about, then please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit those questions, and we'll get to those shortly. So let's talk about collaboration and partnerships. And really, I'm interested in the intersection of that with kind of this season that we seem to be in our nation, where things are so contentious, very polarized. And yet in all of the work that we do, we need people, we need collaboration, we need to work with people that we may or may not agree with. And so my question is around how you're doing that. What are you finding effective when it comes to garnering the relationships that you need to do the work that you do? And Suzanne, I'll start with you. What's been most helpful to you?
Well, Joy, I think you said it. It's really, it's actually, I know we're going to talk about innovation as well, but it really is being innovative in identifying every resource, sort of putting yourself aside and your thoughts aside, and thinking of the people that you serve. And I'll use the Deb store for an example. We've opened a grocery store that's been open for about 2 months. And it's taken us almost a decade total to get that grocery store open in our neighborhood because we're a food desert. And there are about 30 partners that we've had to engage in that grocery store. The first floor of the grocery store is a grocery store that was in our neighborhood for 90 years. It was closed for 10 years, and we reopened that with the family of that store. But we've also partnered with Goodwill. Goodwill Industries actually runs the store. There's a Vice Star in the grocery store as well. So there's so we have Vice Star there. And then we have so many other partners, and it really is, I guess, not outthinking. A lot of times in our work, we can outthink ourselves, right? And say, who can I partner with? But just approaching, because this is the first time Goodwill has ran a grocery store. And someone would say, well, they've never done this before, right? Or they would say they've never done this before, but they were willing to be innovative and try new things. So, especially in our work, I just did before this meeting, I had a speaker panel with LJ Leadership Jacks today, where we, that is a very diverse group of people in those cohorts. And then identifying ways, even with them, of how you can create partnerships and organizing. But it's essential in our work, in the work that we do, in development and serving others, identifying others.
Wonderful, thank you. And then Stacey, I wanted to ask you about this. I know this is a really critical part of your work as well.
Yeah, thank you. Same. So wherever, right now we have a new initiative called MAP, Mission Action Planning. And so we are reimagining what congregations can be all across the connection. Not only are we worshiping on Sunday, but we care about you every day of the week. And so, and to do this well, we have to be in communities, really in communities. With Brian Stevenson would talk about proximity, so close that I'm not just hearing about what you need, but I may also be feeling what you need. And so that's what we're doing. We're walking, we're talking, we're in communities with people, we're partnering with local agencies, government officials. We in the District of Columbia, I want to highlight the work of Joe Daniels and Emory Fellowship, 99 housing unit, affordable housing, like churches. We're thinking about all the ways that we can love well. And so, and do no harm, of course, or do no more harm, some would say. And so I think discerning I don't want to say the needs, but being, again, so close to what's going on in the community that we can begin to move together towards solutions. And I think earlier in the conversation, we talked about amplifying the voices of the people who are most impacted. Like, we're all collaborating together to determine the change that is needed in that space. We're identifying partners that may be missionally aligned with what we're doing. We are understanding that there are parts of us that we have to surrender, meaning our own way, for the ultimate, with the best or the highest good that we think can happen in this space. And whether that's for us with clinics, schools, enterprise, banks, today with Apple. I mean, just all the people that we can bring to the table to help meet needs in practical ways that perhaps we didn't think of before, entertainment, etc. So
wow. So we're going to talk about innovation next. And I think you all are starting to dip into that. And so, but Valerie, I wanted to ask you about collaboration and partnerships and what you found helpful when it comes to building those relationships.
Yeah, I think one of the most valuable lessons I learned is that if you come across someone who has an opposing view or opinion, you shouldn't spend your time trying to convince them otherwise. Because a lot of times folks can be set in their ways, or there are very strong reasons why they're holding on to the opinions and perspectives they have. So it's important to really look at how to connect the dots for people. And when it comes to anything DEIB related, and when it comes to health equity in particular, we had a lot of workplace giving partners that when we started talking to them about health equity, it's like, well, we don't focus on that. That's not our issue. But you have people, you have staff. So that's the connecting of the dots that we've had to do in a lot of our engagement and partnership development and collaborations with organizations that don't see themselves in the work that we're doing. So it's connecting the dots and always reinforcing that health equity work is people work. And it's all about ensuring that people, your employees, your board members, everyone that's involved in your corporation or your for-profit venture is a human, and they have a life, and there are things that touch their lives. So where can we help them understand that there is a role for them to play in this broader range of health equity, social justice, and other things that impact the daily lives of the people that they have in their workplace, in their communities, in their neighborhoods, all of that. So again, connecting the dots is one of the things that I have found to be most helpful in building relationships and partnerships.
Yeah, that's so smart. Thank you for sharing that. So the final question we have before we move to our Q&A is around innovation. And so with our team, at the end of our team meetings, we have a segment that we call Innovation and Inspiration, where one person gets to share something that is inspiring them or something that is an innovation tool that they've discovered and are bringing to the team. So we try to foster a culture of innovation in our work. How are you doing that? What are you finding helpful, and how can organizations and institutions and agencies foster a culture of innovation? I'm going to start with you, Aisha, on that one.
All right. I think, so to me, when I think of innovation, I think of inventions, right? So inventions and things exist to improve upon how things were done in the past. And this may be a little bit a roundabout way to get to the answer, but I think that organizations can foster innovative culture by not gatekeeping, right? And if I back up a little bit, I think just in general, when it talked about collaborations and everything, that you don't operate as a gatekeeper yourself. So you are open. If you know something that's great, then you share it with other people. And then you'll attract similar people to collaborate with. When you talk about innovation, the gatekeeping is what comes to mind, because the young people need to be involved in leadership in these organizations, right? So the gatekeeping keeps the innovative minds out of the rooms. So the people who have the ideas are the young people. And then you have people who are holding on to their positions and look at the young people as a threat, right? And that is a big issue. One thing that excited me a lot was I was at CBC in September, and I met a 30-year-old judge, a Black female that is 30 years old that became a judge when she was 25 years old. So if you're talking about innovation, right, it could be a different kind of way to look at it, but that's not who that typically looks like sitting behind that bench, right? So if I ever get in trouble, I don't want to, but if I did, I certainly would feel more comfortable with someone that knows about what's going on in society, that knows about, and most of the people that are coming through that courtroom are probably her age, right? So she could understand and do that job in a much more innovative way than the people in the past have. But I think that making sure that you don't gatekeep, and that we keep promoting and we keep supporting young people in leadership, and we keep pushing them and building them up.
So good. Yes. Intergenerational workforce is a thing, right?
Oh, and her name was Judge Sears, like the store. So she's in Mesa, Arizona, if you want to look at, because I didn't believe her. I said, show me a picture, like in your judge role, because I'm like, are you kidding me? But it was the most amazing experience. So she's on LinkedIn if y'all want to look her up.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So I'm eager to see if we have, it looks like we don't have any Q&A right now. So if folks have Q&A, then please throw those out there. But one more person, if you have something to share about innovation, just jump in, come off mute.
I want to share, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but as it relates to education, we are losing to innovation. Valerie talked about the negative parts of AI. The same thing is happening to education, and they are grappling with how to deal with this. It is very clear that there is a movement to have minimal knowledgeable people, and that there will be a small group of people who will, as Aisha said, be the gatekeepers. And it's not the gatekeepers to the job, it's gatekeepers to knowledge and truthful, factual knowledge. And we need innovation in how to teach our young people to discern between what they are seeing on social media. I've talked to young people, and Valerie said, don't try to change their mind, but their minds are built on information that's not correct. And it is going to be the challenge of the United States public school system, is if they are, one, not literate, they can't even discern from what's true and what's not true. And it's right now it's highlighted in our political sphere, but it's in every industry. You are seeing more and more of people not being able to discern what information they need and what information they don't need, and how to take that information and then use it. And hopefully the goal would be use it for good, not evil. But I see that part of our issue is that our generation of whether adults or students, they are relying on information that may or may not be accurate to make decisions, and they're not using their own critical thinking skills, their own knowledge base. And the public education is grappling with fighting against that, and it's going to be a very challenging.
Yes, and thank you for raising that, because I think in all of our fields, we're seeing this misinformation and disinformation. And so that is a frontier for innovative thought on how to counter that, and make a difference in that arena. So thank you for lifting that up. I just wanted to, we don't have a question in the chat, but we do have a comment. And this, LaShanta said, what a phenomenal conversation this is. Congratulations on 25 years of awesomeness, and gold stars to each of the panelists and the impactful work you all are doing. I'm so grateful to have listened to so much wisdom. So thank you for sharing that, Sean, and thanks for joining us. Yes, I feel grateful to be in the room as well. Just such wisdom, and we are recording this, so we do plan to share some of this going forward, because it's so impactful and so needed. So I have a question for you, and we may end with this. So, well, two things. So first, I ask you, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? So if is there a podcast that you love? Is there, and this doesn't have to be work related. It can be something fun, but what are you what's in your AirPods these days? Suzanne.
So I am currently listening to Henry Louis Gates' 100 Facts About the Negro. And that, I think that falls right in line with miseducation, the way history has taught us. And I am just so blown away by how a fact has been translated over decades into, and it's been different ways, actual factual thing or instant about Black people, about slavery, about African American has been, translated over the years. But I think I'm on like fact 42, and it really just amazing. And I'm listening to that. So as a artist and creator, and as a leader and advocate, I can actually disseminate factual information. So Dr. Greene, it's so funny that you said that, because I've been struggling with that as well. I have an 18-year-old, and the things that they believe, it's just amazing to me. So I started listening to that, so I can, really start helping them, really understand. And the biggest thing is undoing that lie that our community, that our kids, that we're less than, that we're not good enough, that we're not as talented. They're in some respects starting to believe that. And so, I'm working on that great undoing, as much as I can. I know as much as all of us can, in educating and telling them that that's not the case. That's not true.
Mm, wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I have to look that one up. Is that a podcast, Suzanne?
It is a book.
Audiobook? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I studied under Dr. Gates at Harvard, Afro-Am, so I need to look
Yeah.
that one up.
Yeah,
He's
it's
brilliant, brilliant thinker. And we'll come back around to this, but I do see a question from one of our participants, Ebony. Hey, Ebony, what methods are you currently using to detect bias in training data? And she said, thank you for bringing up this topic. It isn't discussed enough in comparison to the excitement about AI. So it sounds like an important point. Does anyone have anything to share about that? Methods that you found helpful to detect bias in training in particular? So I just want to lift up, I mentioned earlier my friend Meredith, and so the name of her book is More Than a Glitch, Confronting Race, Gender, and Ability Bias in Tech. And so I feel like there may be some solutions there, Ebony, for you to look at. And there's a whole industry. There's I forget the name of the movie that was on Netflix, a documentary about this subject as well, bias in tech. But what we're doing is, as we're developing our trainings, we are utilizing AI to an extent, but we are adding in that human component as well. So to me, that combination is more likely to hit what you're talking about in terms of not relying on AI to produce high quality content for training without a human element. And we talk about this a lot with people, especially folks who are fearful of AI taking their jobs, et cetera, that AI will always need a human element in order to kind of protect the left and right limits of what it's generating. And so in our work, as we're using AI, just being really attentive to making sure that we are doing the work to evaluate and assess it as well, assess the content.
And
our time is one. Oh, go
Oh.
ahead, Valerie.
Oh, I just wanted to add quickly, there's with generative AI in particular, Georgetown University has done quite a bit of work in looking at the data sources, who's informing AI content and development. So that could be a good place to, begin doing some digging around and seeing who's providing the information. Have they been vetted? How is the information evolving? All of those things that go into the effectiveness of AI.
Great, thank you for that. And then Tom also mentioned data triangulation using quantitative and qualitative methods. So the work that we do around evaluation and research in our firm, that type of work can assist with, helping to make sure that, there are some other sources versus just the one of AI content. So just quick popcorn. What are you reading, watching, listening to? Just give us the title, and then we're gonna end up here. And Ashley, could you post the survey so folks can complete the feedback survey as we're finishing up? Aisha, what are you listening, watching, reading?
Well, listening to is music. So the South African gospel music. I don't know if y'all have ever listened to it, but like the Soweto Mass Choir it's so beautiful. And I don't know what they're saying, but it's so beautiful. So I like typically wake up. So as far as listening to on the music side is that reading, I'm rereading the ISIS papers, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. So The Keys to the Colors. And that's definitely a one to keep in the library, but I'm rereading that right now.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. And Stacey, what are you reading?
Okay, listening, Homecoming podcast with Tama Bryant. Enjoy that. And reading Jamar Tisby's new book, The Spirit of Justice. And I won't tell you the other things that have me going down a rabbit hole, the general topic of entertainment news.
Right. Thank you. So I'm making my list now, things that need to keep me busy during the holidays. Diana, how about you?
So, I was never really a jazz person who listens to jazz, but now through Pandora, I just can't stop listening to it. So whenever I have an opportunity, I'm exercising, that's what I'm listening to.
Okay.
I really don't want to share. I'm at a phase in my life where I'm starting to read things that aren't technical, I'm reading things that just
that you enjoy.
Just takes my mind somewhere else and not in reality. So I'm reading. Let's just leave it.
I totally understand.
Love it. We need that. So my guilty pleasure right now is Only Murders in the Building. It's a series, TV series with Steve Martin. Super cool. And a little humor in there.
Well,
and then
Joy, I'm glad you said that because I'm now become a Netflix junkie and a Hulu junkie. So I just
yeah, so you work hard, play hard. Valerie, I don't think we got you. Did you want to give us something to read or listen to?
Well, I'm reading, and I can't recall the name of it, of course, but one of the latest by Ibram X. Kendi about critical race theory. Listening to Samara Joy, I love her music, and watching. I am a true crime docuseries fiend these days. So I don't know if I want to admit that, but yes, true crime.
Love it. I think we got everybody. Did I miss anyone? Okay, I think that's all of us. So we're gonna close. We're at time, but this has been just such a delightful delightful time together. And I thank each of you for taking the time to be a part of this symposium. This is amazing. Just such amazing leaders and such wisdom to share. I'm inspired. I've learned something. And so thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. Just hopefully you're on our mailing list, and we'll be posting some things on social, and we'll probably upload a recording to our YouTube channel once we get it edited down. So just keep an eye out for that. And again, thank you for being a part of our 25th anniversary celebration.